Hello and welcome to this refresher video discussing slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. The most important thing that you're going to want to remember is that two lines that do not intersect are called parallel lines. These are parallel. And parallel lines, because they have the same rise over run, then they have the same slope. Their slopes are equal. So for example, if this first line here, if we called this line number 1, if it had a slope of 6, and we knew that line 2 was parallel to line number 1, well, we would know that line 2 also has a slope of 6. There's a similar relationship with perpendicular lines. Now, perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at 90-degree angles. As we can see here, these two lines are perpendicular. Now, perpendicular lines have a relationship with their slopes, and the way we find it is by taking the opposite reciprocal. The opposite reciprocal. Now, a reciprocal is a flip of the number. So for example, if line number 1 had a slope of, 4/7, and we knew that line number 2 was perpendicular, then a perpendicular slope would be the reciprocal of this. So we flip the number, it becomes 7/4, and we take the opposite sign. So I would call it -7/4. That would be the slope of a line that is perpendicular to a line that has a slope of 4/7. So now that we've discussed this idea of slopes and their relationships with parallel and perpendicular lines, here are 3 questions we'd like you to try. Go ahead and pause the video now and try number 1, number 2, and number 3, and see if you can't find out what the slopes of these lines would be. You can pause the video now, and when you're ready to check your answers, go ahead and unpause it. Okay, here we go. On question number 1, we have 2 lines that are parallel. Ooh, when they're parallel, they're going to have the same slope. So one line has a slope of -3. What's the slope of the other? Well, it would be the same. So our answer would be -3. Again, we use the letter M to represent slope. And because these lines are parallel, they would have the same slope. Okay, let's try number 2. In number 2, it says 2 lines are perpendicular. Ooh. Now remember, when they're perpendicular, they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So it says one line has a slope of 4/5. What's the slope of the other line? So I would have to take the opposite reciprocal of 4/5. That means flip the number so it becomes 5/4 and do the opposite sign. So the slope would be -5/4. Let's check number 3. 2 lines are perpendicular. One line has a slope of -7. What is the slope of the other line? Ooh. Okay, so we've got -7. We've got to do opposite reciprocal. So what's the reciprocal of 7? It might be good to think of this number as -7/1. Any whole number can be divided by 1. 7 divided by 1 is 7. This might help us see what the reciprocal is. So when now I can go ahead and flip this number. The reciprocal of -7 is actually 1/7, and we need to do the opposite sign. Since this is already negative, it would become positive, and our slope would be 1/7. Thanks for reviewing parallel and perpendicular lines and their slopes. Keep working hard.